Today we're gonna be making Haitian pumpkin soup, which is the freedom soup for us. This is very ingrained in our culture. This is the food, the soup the Haitian slaves used to cook for the French, for their French masters, but they were not allowed to eat. So on January 1st, 1804, to celebrate our independence, guess what the slaves made? They made pumpkin soup. So this is the soup that I'm gonna be teaching you today how to make. So in Haitian cuisine, the base of all Haitian cooking is the marinade. If your marinade is tasty, your food will be tasty. If your marinade is, like we say in French, clopi clopin, your food will taste clopi clopin. It will be like somewhat good. So I'm gonna show you how to make it from scratch. If you go to a YouTube channel, you're looking for Haitian cuisine. Haitians are big in powdered spices and bouillon cubes. I don't use none of that. I have my own bouillon cubes that I sell seasonally, like doing in the winter. But you can make your own bouillon cube with regular vegetables without adding all the same MSG and processed food to your cuisine. So you're gonna fall in love with your belly. If you fall in love with your belly, you can tell that I fall in love with my belly. So I love my cooking and I love cooking from scratch. So this is the Haitian marinade, and that's regularly what it looks like. Sometimes it's greener depending on how much parsley people put on it. On Instagram or on other social media, I've seen it very, very green, but mine, I like it just enough, this color. What's in it? You will be surprised if you get to taste it. It's green onions, regular garlic, bell peppers, and then a lot of thyme, and I have my parsley in there. And we are big in our acidity. So I use a lot of lime juice in my cooking. And also we use vinegar. But the vinegar and lime, it's a combination that I use to give me that sour orange. Back home when I was growing up, my mother, in our house, we use a lot of sour orange, but unfortunately we don't have it in the Northwest. So I use a combination of lime juice and vinegar to give me the kind of somewhat the flavor of sour orange. So that's all there is in it, and we use whole cloves, and then a black peppercorn. That's all there is to it. And of course, as a Haitian, I use Scotch bonnet pepper. This is all the way from Florida to Portland. So I use Scotch bonnet pepper, and then if you don't have Scotch bonnet, habanero will do. If you don't want to use habanero, that's fine. My sister was she was a chef, like very popular in our town. So she will add mustard to her marinade. That's your choice. The recipe calls for mustard. If you want to, you can add it. But basically, I'm gonna take a bite to it. I just make it today. If you are storing it, you can store, if you store your marinade, in Haitian Creole, we call it épice. You can store it in a jar in your fridge. And because of the acidity content, it can last up to 5 months. If you don't want it in your fridge, you are cooking Chinese, you are cooking Thai food, you can put it in an ice tray and then use the little cubes in your soup and bouillon, and voila. I'm gonna take a taste so you can see for yourself. So good, and it's all fresh. That's all there is to it for your marinade. In Haitian cuisine, we cook very simple. I mean, I cook very simple, but you need to give yourself time. You give yourself time to marinate, to clean your meat. So this morning, I'm gonna use short ribs for the soup. So I remove all the extra fat from the meat. And then after you remove all the extra fat, what we do, we scrub it with a little bit of salt. Put in coarse Himalayan salt in here, and then I'm gonna scrub the meat with lime. So it's all the little techniques. What happens when you scrub your meat with lime? All the natural oil from the lime got transferred to the meat, and that flavor you cannot get it anywhere else other than scrubbing the meat. Okay, so I'm gonna scrub it, squeeze the lime juice on there really good. Add the salt in there. And then I'm gonna add a little bit vinegar. Remember we talked about that sour orange. Ooh, the smell of fresh lime peel. Okay, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of vinegar. And then I'm gonna give my meat a nice scrub. People say, why do you have to wash your meat? It's a Haitian thing. You scrub it with the lime so that all that fresh lime oil and flavor can get into the meat. If I add sour orange, I will have used sour orange and a little bit of vinegar and the salt. Okay, and then I'm gonna let the meat sit in here for about 10 minutes. You can do 15 or 20, but mine will be for 10. So we're gonna review what we have done so far. We talked about our marinade, which is the base of all Haitian cooking. Well, we talked about scrubbing the meat with lime. So what I didn't talk about is marinating the meat, that we are going to show you how to do it. But if you're making this soup and you're using meat, it's preferable to marinate it overnight. If you're cooking it the same day, you're like, oh my gosh, I want some pumpkin soup, I have that pumpkin sitting here forever. You can marinate it for 4 hours during the day. But in order for you to just forget about the meat, sit around and waiting for the meat, you do it overnight. You scrub it, clean it, and marinate it overnight. So all there is into the marinating, you have your épices in Haitian Creole. All you do is just put that baby on there, and you use your hands. If you are very sensitive to, you don't want garlic to be, the smell of garlic to be in your hands, that's okay. Once you get used to it, it will be just fine. Just roll it on there. You can use a colander so you don't have water from the meat, let it drain your meat after you scrub it. And then you add your épices to it. So I forgot to say that Creole Miyak, we have a variety of 4 of this marinade, which is the same base but with different key ingredients. Like I have one with beets, I have one with turmeric and rosemary. I'm coming with one which will be more tend to be more for Hispanic cooking with the peppers and all of that. But look at how beautiful this meat is. It's beautiful. So all you do, you seal it with some plastic wrap overnight, and then you forget about it until the next day. So let's talk about the pumpkin that you can use for your soup. You can use acorn squash. You can use if you go to farmers markets, the farmers are so good about which pumpkins are good for soups and which are not. So I grabbed this at the PSU farmers market. And when you buy a pumpkin, it's kind of intimidating because it's so hard on the outside. What you do, just warm up your oven to 400 degrees and let the pumpkin sit for 20 minutes. That's all. So you can soften the outer skin of the pumpkin, and then you'll be able to slice it instead of struggling with a very fresh pumpkin. So that's what you do. That's how you cut it. That's how you cut your pumpkin. 400 degrees, 20 minutes, and that's all. For the acorn squash, sometimes I go 350, 20 minutes, and then I'm able to slice through it. Or when I don't want to slice through it, the acorn squash is way easier. You can cut it in very small slices and then take the peel off. So for our soup, you can either go that route, you can either boil it with the whole peel and then mash it and add to the soup, or you can, if you have strong muscles, you can just peel it. You can just peel it fresh. Okay, so that's the pumpkin pot. We are warming up our pot for the soup. I'm gonna add some oil. And then for the soup too, let's say you are cooking your soup, but you are inviting people over, you don't know who is vegan, who is not vegan. You can always do the soup entirely without the meat. So the meat, if you put in meat, you can cook the meat separately and add it at the end. You can start the soup with the meat like I'm gonna be doing now. Or you can cook the meat and set aside for people who want to add meat to the soup. Okay. I'm gonna sear it first. I'm gonna sear the meat first. So again, you can cook the meat with the soup, or cook it separately and add all that juice at the end to the soup. But I am cooking it now with the soup. I'm using short ribs for the meat, but you can use oxtail. Oxtail is good, or beef bun soup, or any type of meat that you want to. But as Haitian, we tend to like our buns, to have buns in the soup. But if you don't like it, you can skip it. And then another thing too with Haitians, Americans like their vegetable chopped very finely in their soup. We use big chunk, like my potatoes. Check this out. We use whole potatoes. We like big chunk of vegetables in our soup. So I'm gonna do it the Haitian way, but you can do it the other way around. Like I said, your épices or your marinade, that's what defines the flavors in your soup. Okay, so I would like to talk about the vegetables that we use in the pumpkin soup or freedom soup. You must use the shallot squash in your pumpkin soup. This is, they call it shallot squash. In French, we call it, in Creole, we call it mirliton. So I'm gonna cut it in front of you because I want people to start using shallot squash. Okay, like my mom, I put it upside down. There is no particular ritual, but for some reason, I'm keeping it the way my mother used to make it. Okay, I'm turning my meat here. I don't want it to get burned. A beautiful color. Beautiful color. Okay, so this is how my shallot squash look. I'm gonna remove the middle part. I'm going to peel it and I'm gonna chop it. Okay? And I will add it to the group. And this, there is rutabaga, there is turnips, celery. There is no Haitian soup in my house without a big chunk of celery with leaves floating in it. So I leave it typically so you guys can see. And then I have leeks and carrots, and then I have potatoes. And the reason why I have my potato in water is because I don't want them to turn red as I cook or before I use them. Okay, so my meat is almost ready. What I'm gonna do, this is beautiful color. Let me see if I can show you guys. Okay, so good. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add my épices to the meat. So beautiful, and it smells amazing. I'm gonna let that sizzle a little bit. Add some water. Okay, nothing goes to waste. So I have water. I'm gonna rinse the bowl, the same bowl that I was marinating the meat. Okay, let's peel that. What we do, you can use a peeler, but I didn't know what a peeler was until I come to the US, so I use my little knife. Like, what a peeler? Why are you guys so fancy? Look at that. And then I remove the middle part. See? Just like that, and I'm gonna chop it. And I'm gonna add the water from the marinating. And then for extra flavor in my soup, I always add a piece of like some big chunks of onions. But you can dice it if you would like. If you are cooking a vegan soup, I have chopped. And this I have chopped shallots, onions, and garlic that you can start your stock with. Okay, and then you saute that mix that you see it's all chopped. You saute those, and then add your water, and then add your épices. Let it boil. You might need a little bit of salt, so you will need to try it. And then what I like to do in my vegan soup, I use lime juice in the stock before I add my my vegetables. And just like that, you have your flavor popping. So this is the route for the vegan. You chop some onion, some garlic, some shallot, sauteed your that mix. Add your water for the stock, and then a little bit of lime juice, a little bit of salt, chunks of onions like I just did, and then a little bit of lime juice, and then voila. That's all. Don't believe the hype that you have to have so many powdered spices, so much powdered spices in your food. This is the route to go to keep your belly clean and eat clean. Yeah. Okay, so we talk about marinating the meat, scrubbing the meat with lime, rinsing the meat, let it sit overnight. We sear the meat. We rinse our bowl that the meat was marinating in, and we put the water in the meat. So now we're gonna add our vegetables, and for aromatic, so everybody has some parsley laying in their bowl. So I just add my parsley for aromatic. In Haitian cuisine, there is what we call a bouquet garni. Bouquet garni, what it is nothing else than a generous chunk of thyme, and then with parsley tied together. You tied it up, and then you add this to your soup, to your rice, to your meat, to your sauces, and that's the best thing ever. And this is the secret really to Haitian rice. Rice and beans, rice and peas, rice and dark mushroom rice. This is the secret, the bouquet garni. Bouquet garni, it's parsley, and it's parsley and thyme tied together. So what I do, I remove the seeds. Look at how beautiful this pumpkin is. And then all there is to it, because we already kind of soften it up. See, check out how easy this is to peel. Or you can also use a spoon and carve the pumpkin meat inside of the peel instead of peeling it. It's your kitchen, it's your belly, it's your cuisine. You just do what works best for you. But scrub your meat. And that's all there is to it. I'm gonna add it to our meat boiling. Okay, so we have our pumpkin in the meat, and then I'm gonna add all the vegetables. So beautiful. Okay, so now that our pumpkin is cooked, I'm gonna remove the pieces so that I can blend them. The soup is almost done. It's just like the little techniques. Blend it. But if you want, you can boil the pumpkin separately and then garnish separately and add it to your soup. But I'm just following what my mama used to do. But you can develop your own system. And then sometimes too, depending on the type of squash, you can always you can crush it also in the middle of the soup, like on the side of your pot. You can do that too if you don't want to blend it. Okay, so now I'm gonna add some stock. My soup is already all yellow, but with blending the pumpkin, it's gonna be like all pumpkin, all pumpkin. The pumpkin soup will be pumpkin soup. And then I'm gonna add it. Woo! Check this out. So yellow. I'm gonna give it a little rinse. Awesome. Okay, so now if you are adding using scotch bonnet or habanero pepper in your soup, and you're not gonna be the only one eating your soup, add the habanero at the end, or almost at the end, after everything is almost cooked. And then if you me, you will be crushing it. If I'm eating it, if I'm doing it for myself, I'll be crushing it in the soup. But if you are putting it, all you do is you poke a little hole. You poke just a little hole, just in case you are receiving some wimpy eaters and they don't do spice very well. So you have just enough spice on there instead of crushing it in your soup. Okay, so I like adding my potatoes almost at the end too, because you don't want your potato to be too mushy or falling apart. So like I told you before, I like my big chunk of potatoes, so that's what I'm gonna do. The rice is already in there. If you put in rice in your soup, make sure you rinse it so you can remove extra starch from your rice. Okay, so I'm adding my potatoes, and then I'm adding some pasta. We even add spaghetti to the soup, so you pick your battle. If you want spaghetti, you add it. If you want noodle, you add it. So I'm adding some. And then I'm adding my cabbage. And then as you can tell, look at that. Look at the size of my cabbage leaves that I chop. But if you want yours very mince, it's your call. But Haitians will like a big chunk of cabbage leaves in our soup. So I'm gonna add this. And just like that, our soup is almost ready. We'll be back for when we are serving it. Okay, so our soup is ready. I am going to plate it so you can see. Hopefully you will make pumpkin soup a part of your soup encyclopedia or catalog, because it's so good. It's very good. So okay, I have some potatoes. Like I told you, my mother likes serving parsley, and this is my parsley. I have some potatoes in there. I'm gonna add some meat, some carrots away from the bottom of the pot, and then the meat. Some pasta in there, some rutabaga. I'm gonna put some more carrots for coloring. And voila! Ta-da! Just like this. So this is very not only colorful, delicious, and then beautiful. So have fun making your pumpkin soup. If you have questions, you can always reach out to me on social media. Creole me up, both on Facebook and on Instagram. If you like some of my products, you can go to my website, creolemeup.com, or you can always send me a message also on social media. You can email us at hitmeup@creolemeup.com. Thank you so much for watching.